Washington Outsider Report on the Coalition Radio. For those newly joining the program, my name is Irina Zuckerman, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the Washington Outsider. With us today is a special guest from Jordan, Dr. Saud al-Sharafat, who is a retired brigadier general at the Jordanian General Intelligence, also a member of the National Policy Council and director of the Sharafat Center for Globalization and Terrorism Study. So our conversation today will focus on the U.S.-Jordan relations and military and defense cooperation, security cooperation. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we begin, could you just tell us a little bit more about your professional background and about your center?
Thank you for this opportunity. You summarize, the most important thing about my, let's say my bio. So, as you mentioned, I am retired, Brigadier General from the GID, General Intelligence Directorate from Jordan. I retired, in 2015, and then I established, the Sharafat Center for Globalization and Terrorism Study as, private, think tanks, for profit. I emphasize my, work in globalization process, the reciprocal effect between globalization and global terrorism, radicalization, and I began to expanded my interest in field like intelligence analyst, because I spent some time of my work as an analyst, more than a decade on this thing. So still love this kind of things. And then I want to try to combine between the tactical information, expertise in the trade craft and academia. So I do my master degree in globalization process and global terrorism, and I do the same track in the my PhD, and so on. And then in the last 6 years, I began to work in what we call it the terrorism index in Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of my passion to add some value in the field of counterterrorism and all the stuff that we work on it. And in the last recent year, I began to put more effort in and try to understand the big picture of security cooperation, especially with the USA, because as a Jordanian and as a Jordan as a government, we rely a lot in US and in financing our needs, equipment, military equipment, trainee, all the logistics things. So it's began to attract me more in from this point of view, if you want to summarize it. Yes.
Thank you so much for this insight. So I want to begin by asking you a broader question. In terms of how have the U.S.-Jordan defense relations and cooperation evolved in recent years, as regional threats have become more diffuse and less state-centric? Not to say that there aren't any state threats. Jordan has been attacked by Iranian drones in recent years. Is one of those things, but we're also seeing terrorist threats emerge, and namely, especially recently, U.S. designated the Muslim Brotherhood branch in Jordan as a terrorist organization. So how have the U.S. And Jordanian relations handled these issues?
So first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to participate in this podcast on the U.S. Jordanian security partnership. And over the years, the partnership has evolved from focus in training and capacity building to strategic relationship that encompass regional deterrence and intelligence coordination to address the conventional and unconventional threat. Okay, so Jordan plays a unique role as a stabilizing buffer state, capable of managing its border and balancing internal and external security challenges, providing the U.S. State with a strategic platform that cannot be easily replicated by other partner in the region. And today cooperation include daily coordination, intelligence sharing, intelligence joint exercise. Like 2 days ago, there is the commander of the naval American naval visited the Jordanian naval in Aqaba. That's 2 days ago. All of which enhance what you call it readiness and deterrence capability. U.S. support, of course, helped Jordanian to modernize Jordan force and guided training priority, while Jordan maintained a degree of defense autonomy to ensure the partnership continuation and potential political shift. I think that if you ask me, the success of this relationship till now is measured by the ability to deter threat, maintain internal and national stability, and adapt to evolving challenge, not merely by the level of funding, the equipment and the training, but strengthening the partnership. We need to understand it as a key to addressing the future regional security challenge because of the vital region now in the Middle East. So this is in a brief, if I answer your question. This is the first question of yours, your interview.
And would you say that dealing with counterterrorism issues presents new challenges and opportunities, or is it pretty much similar to the traditional military cooperation?
No, I don't think so, because terrorism is not a conventional threat for both sides. It's if we look at from a point of global terrorism, it's emerged and it is changing all over the time with the advance of technology and the process of globalization. So it have this many faces. It's like Hydra. It's evolve with the time. So and I think from my point of view, under those circumstances, you need to cooperate with a country that have the ability to work with this evil, this evolving evil, every time, So we need equipment, all the time. We need, modern technology in surveillance, in counterterrorism, and in what do you call it? Information sharing. This is a very, very important and vital, aspect in every, aspect of, counterterrorism now. Whether you are, a small country or a big country, or a hegemonic, empire like United States now, we need, to cooperate in this thing by cooperation, by the partnership, which is depends in trust, mutual trust. We can face this challenge.
So you mentioned
Yes.
that Jordan's role as a buffer state is unique and cannot be easily replicated by other countries in the region. Could you explain a little bit what makes this partnership different?
Look, when I talk about even in the last conference yeah, what I mean by Jordan playing a buffer, country or a buffer state. I don't mean to the bad side of the picture. I think that United States after 1949, after the relation between Jordan and American began during the Truman administration, after this let's say relation change or there is a diversion in historically things from the British mandate to the American. So you need to understand the historical background of this thing. So Jordan played this role as a buffer because she need I think she need some help from some from outside outside actor to help in that. To make it work. If we don't have the American help, I think that Jordan cannot play this let's say this role during the last let's say 17 years, 7 decades or more. So I think playing a buffer benefit to the two side of the equation, the United States and the Jordanian benefited from United States financing, funding, and and modernize its army, its intelligence service, its border security. And we play a good role in the what do you call it, in the Cold War era. We play a very vital role in that time, because the late King Hussein understand the equation, understand the Soviet Union at that time, the Eastern Bloc, trying to control the Middle East, try to find some spot in the area. So Jordan at that time play a very vital role in helping United States in gaining the Cold War.
But what makes this relationship different from other former Middle Eastern allies, who such as, for instance, Saudi Arabia? Is it the nature of the military cooperation that's different? Is it the quality? Is it just the way the coordination works on a technical level?
I think it's more of it. It's like a personal, let's say, diplomacy.
Hmm.
What do you call it? Yeah. King Hussein is at that time playing, this, personal diplomacy in a way that he, can,
Hmm.
benefit from, other, to convince, like, the Truman administration at the
Mm-hmm.
first, and then, all the administration which come, late, like, Nixon administration and
Mm-hmm.
Johnson to convince them that Jordan is Jordan can help in doing this thing more than an other nation in the
Hmm.
area. At that time, if we go back, I think that you have many competitor,
Mm-hmm.
like Iran at that time, during the Shah, they have very close relation with the US, and you have the Saudi. But I think that King Hussein have this kind of spicy, which is nobody, I think, have it among others. I'm proud of that. I'm not saying that because it's false, but because
Mm-hmm.
everybody talking about it. He have this charisma in doing things, and trying to convert this small, very poor country to be a very vital partnership with the others. And he's honest on that, and people trust him, in the US, president, all the president, they trust him in doing that. He's not like playing foxy things.
Mm-hmm.
If he gives you a word, you can't trust him. Even with the Israelis, when they when we talk with the Israelis, if you go to all the literature talking about the relation between
Mm-hmm.
Jordan and Israeli, you will find a very the bottom line is trust between
Mm-hmm.
the two sides. So I think this is what makes differ uh, Jordanian approach, if we talk about it from other let's say competitor on that, and which is give the Jordanian um, the or put him in the as a joker in the playing of the Middle East.
Mm.
Yes.
So, so you mentioned one extremely important word, which is trust, and that's an extremely important component in any military to military cooperation, but also, of course, in the Middle East in general. And without that, I mean, in some ways, it's a foundational block of these relationships. Um, you know, as far as I see, that trust has only grown over time and has allowed the two countries to work together very effectively during critical moments. That also, however, means that the partners should listen to each other's concerns. Trust means this ability to share each other's priorities. So, from Aman's perspective, which security threats are most urgent now? And how have Jordan's defense priorities shifted in response? And I'm bringing this up because I don't always feel that the American leaders have listened as carefully as they should. And if they did, maybe some of the current crisis could have been mitigated or avoided altogether. Um,
Yeah. Uh, well, we don't live, in a utopia, world. We know that, Jordanian, even the regime in Jordan, the government in Jordan, all of them is realizing that, which is good, in politics, that, we understand that we need, to approach, this relation and in a solid, real politics. So, we don't have, this illusion of, things.
Mm-hmm.
So, whenever, the American administration, I'm not, talking about just, Trump administration or
Mm-hmm.
Biden, or, whenever they, listen to us, listen to our, feeling, how we approach things, which is, very important for us, as a Jordanian, which is,
Mm-hmm.
the uh, not ending, the conflict, Palestinian-Israeli
Mm-hmm.
conflict.
Mm-hmm.
This is, the main issue
Mm-hmm.
that all all things is concentrating, around, this recipe,
Mm-hmm.
So uh, we try, to every time, to focus on this thing, to okay, to preserve our national security. We don't want, the uh, the war in Gaza or in the Middle East, to spill over to Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want, a problem of, refugee, Palestinian refugee to come to Jordan, to cross the river to Jordan. We need, to our, focus in the Jerusalem and, Islamic, and the Christian, custody in the West Bank, in Jerusalem. So those are the main, point that, if I want, to summarize, all the
Mm-hmm.
issue here in Jordan. Other than that, it's, it's a detail. Even, the terrorism, terrorism. Uh, okay, we have, this, let's say, threat from, at the past, from Al Qaeda,
Mm-hmm.
and sometime from, Abu Mus'ab al-Zarqawi, which is, is a Jordanian from Zarqa.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we have, Daesh. But it's not, it's not, that's, it's not uh, a, a very, very, let's say, uh, dangerous, thing. We can, deal with it, and we deal with it, on a daily basis, on
Mm-hmm.
counterterrorism, and, when the coalition with the United States, we are, very happy, to work, under this, umbrella. 2 weeks ago, we, share in the Air Force, strike in for to Daesh. So it's okay. But returning back, to the what's important for us is
Mm-hmm.
our national security. We don't need, more Palestinian refugee. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we have a lot of them, and, some of our problem now in Jordan because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the main issue. Yeah.
Do you think, though, realistically speaking, that even hypothetically, if there was a single, unified, functional Palestinian state, do you think that would completely solve the problem of the Palestinian groups all over the Middle East? Because I'm not sure that all of them would necessarily return to that state, even in some hypothetical scenario, it was completely functional and self-sustaining.
So could you clarify? I don't, I think I don't understand, the question.
So let's suppose there was a Palestinian state that was created, and let's suppose it was efficiently run and it was all fine and it was like a new UAE or something of the Middle East. But do you think that would really resolve the refugee problems of the Palestinians all over the Middle East? In other words, what if not everybody decided to move to that state? What if some of these groups, especially the more militant ones, who didn't like the idea of a state with a peace treaty with Israel, for instance, decided to remain where they are and continue their problems the same way Al Qaeda or ISIS or any other terrorist group continues? In other words, leaving aside the issue of statehood, which is a political issue specific to these groups, is there any long-term solution for the more militant actors among them who are not interested in global diplomacy?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very, critical question and a very important question. I think, first of all, I think it's hypothetically, as you mentioned,
Mm-hmm,
it may help in
mm-hmm,
decreasing
mm-hmm,
the threat and the whole Middle East. It will,
mm-hmm,
decrease it. But I don't. At the same time, I don't think that the refugee issue will resolve,
mm-hmm,
because uh, I don't think that the Palestinian, the Jordanian, from the origin, Palestinian origin, will go back to the West Bank,
mm-hmm,
because most of them is they built
mm-hmm,
their whole life here,
mm-hmm,
some of them, they have become a Jordanian. uh, so I don't think it's very, very, very problematic, issue. I don't think that I can't, even, answer this question. It's just something, very,
mm-hmm,
very difficult, to answer it.
mm-hmm,
There is a lot of, a lot of, a lot of hypotheses about it. Two-state solution, one state solution, all of this stuff. But uh, it's very complicated, situation. But I think, given that the Palestinian, their own state,
mm-hmm,
for sure it will, decrease in all the hostility, or maybe
mm-hmm,
stop, the war. Maybe if the other, national community, help them in rebuild, their economy. It will help. But I'm not optimistic about it, to be, sure, to be, frank with you.
You mentioned, of course, the issue of internal stability and national security. How does Jordan balance these, preserving this internal stability concerns with its expanding external security responsibilities along multiple borders? Because we're seeing situation with Syria, for instance, unfold, ISIS returning, and other countries also. Dealing with assorted problems. What do you see? How can Jordan balance these internal stability considerations with these problems?
It's a very, very critical, equation. I think, Jordan gained, a lot of expertise from, during the last century, from, the beginning of, creating, the kingdom of Jordan.
Mm-hmm,
They deal with the hostile environment. They deal with all the wave of, let's say, terrorism. Um leftist, terrorism, Palestinian terrorism, national terrorism, and then we have the third wave of terrorism. If we want to quote David Rabarot about the wave of terrorism. So those expertise with the with the time accumulated kind of a bank of information that you can, let's say, depend on in how to deal with the security issue. This is on one hand. The other hand, from the beginning, Jordan depends on not interfering in the others' issue. We don't interfere in the other countries. Even when they try let's say to manipulate sometime to do something bad for us, because the leader and all the government not in the same weight but all the system is have this an understanding of to be alert. In the same time, you don't hesitate to strike in the same or on the appropriate time. So trust, not interfering in the others' issue, especially with the Arabs country. Respecting respecting the national law, respecting your agreement with others. All of that is what Jordanian national security or Jordanian policy is depending on during the last, let's say, century, from the beginning of our independence. Yes.
How important is intelligence sharing to the U.S.-Jordan relationship, and how has this cooperation adapted to emerging hybrid threats?
Yeah, this is a very interesting, issue. One of my, let's say, favorite, in things. So, intelligence, tradecraft is a very, very precious, things. For if you take it, personally, you don't need anybody, to know your secret. You don't, give your secret, for others. It's yours, and it makes you strong or makes you, weak or fragile. So in some time in the past, security things and tradecraft is like, oligopoly competition. There is one person or one let's say agency knows something about a person or something, and it doesn't share it with others unless it gains something instead of it, or you buy it. This is the case. This oligopoly playing game is, you can describe the whole, let's say, espionage during the last 100 years, till the era of the Cold War. That secret thing is very, very sacred. It's like sacred thing. You don't give it for anybody. But because of that's how approach this thing in intelligence, studies and security studies. I think that after the collapse of the Eastern Bloc, the takeoff of globalization, opening the advance in technology, free trade, globalized world, and then it comes the turning point in this story, or I call it the saga, okay, which is the September 11 terrorist attack, 2001. I think what's happened after September 11 is a turning point in the whole field of intelligence sharing. Countries began to enter in this, let's say, play. Jordan, I don't want to make it a very proud story, but like for example, for Jordan, we find ourselves. I was at that time I was in the GID, and I know how how things goes at that time. You need to cooperate in this thing, and we cooperate in 100%. In this in this process, we help a lot in this process, in information, and even in the expertise about in how some Islamic group work or think, and because we have this database from the past, so we share a lot of things in this issue, and it was one of the most, let's say, highest, let's say, level of cooperation between the two agencies, the CIA and the GID at that time. They share a lot of things, and they have this open doors, and there's a lot of mutual, let's say, visit, both sides, from Amman to USA and back, and the Jordanian doesn't hesitate at that time to share everything they know about terrorism and Islamic group, or even some personnel.
So I'm curious,
Yes.
given the legal differences in definition of terrorism between the United States up until recently and Jordan, were there any major obstacles in countering terrorist groups because of these legal and also, I guess, to some extent, political differences as well?
Yes, it's not, but it's not between Jordan and the United States. It's between everybody, because even in the USA, you don't have one definition of. You have CIA definition, you have the FBI definition, you have the definition of Minister of Treasury, you have so it's one of the big problem facing the counterterrorism, and not the counterterrorism in practical, even in the people who work in the academia. We don't find one, let's say, common definition of it. 2 years ago, when I published my book about historiography of terrorism in Jordan, during the last, let's say, Uh, I I collect more than 200 definition of terrorism. That's, let's say, 200 definition, which is, you can, let's say, uh, very, let's say, very, from, academic, point of view, which is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, scholars depend on them. So when we talk about, 200 definition and, money definition, even in the same states. So you can, let's say, imagine how it's difficult to work on that. So of course there is a problem. And to give you an example, about this thing, which is a very raw example. Remember, 2 days ago when the Trump administration designated the
Mm-hmm.
Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorism group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so it designated, like, the Muslim Brotherhood in Lebanon as, for the, what do you call it, the FOT, with the uh, uh, State Department
Mm-hmm.
definition. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but it designated, the Jordanian and the Egyptian, like, treasure, uh, uh, definition, which is,
Mm-hmm.
one of them is goes, to criminalize, the the group, and the
Mm-hmm.
other one, which is, applied for Jordan, is, goes, to the financing, and,
Mm-hmm.
put, pressure on the financing this thing. So yes, it's sometimes it's make it very difficult from, legal point of view, and make it,
Mm-hmm.
very difficulties in working in that field. If I, if you understand me, what I'm talking
Yes,
about this
absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm actually very curious as how that ends up working out in practice, because enforcing such mechanisms when there is a wide divergence, it can lead to confusion, it can lead to miscommunication between different agencies, and it can lead to these actors exploiting these loopholes and differences in order to um, restructure their financials and restructure their communications to divert, the worst impact of the sanctions, to divert them and to dilute them. So
Yes, yes, of course. And I write, and write that in my, in my page, in the about, how, this, the difference of designated, or describing, terrorism group, the difference between, between, Ministry of Treasury, the American Treasury, and, the U.S. Department, like, foreign terrorist group, or, designated as, a foreigner terrorist group. So this confusing about that, how is, affect the counterterrorism as a whole.
so that
Yes.
that, that leads me to ask. So in terms of actual enforcement and in terms of the military angle on all these things, to what extent um, does Jordan view its relationship with the US as a deterrence tool rather than just a capacity building partnership? And can it be a serious deterrence tool if there are these divergent definitions of threats, not to mention the word terrorism as a concept?
Uh, yeah, yes, I think it's began, and the relation began with, like, as you mentioned, that with the trainee and the logistic things,
Mm-hmm.
but it turned, with the time, to be,
Mm-hmm.
to work on the tourney. And that's because, when you equipped and when you train, and you uh, rebuild, and you invest in training, and you invest in remodeling your technology and your uh, all of your let's say capabilities. You will reach, a point or a stage that you can, let's say, now, play, in doing, something, beyond that, beyond, training, and beyond, uh, just, depend on this aspect, to try to play, a positive role in benefiting the other side, in deterring, some, let's say, uh, uh, hostile, let's say, environment. Like, for example, when you cooperate with the your partnership, in let's say, in fighting against, terrorism, or the Iranian, backed, militia or affiliation, or when you help in, your partnership in like, during the last, strike to Iran, American, for Iran, uh, Jordan, try to play a vital, role in this thing, from its, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
point of view, or, the things that uh, have, the ability to work on it. Uh, Jordan can play this, kind of the equation from, the bases, the American bases, which is, in Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
The American have, so many, bases here in Jordan. In this, bases, we share, information, we share training, we share, expertise, we share, experience, and whenever, they ask us, to work, because we have, under, what do you call it, the proud, let's say, Centcom, we cooperate on this thing. So this is how we, how, this equation, began, to evolution of this thing, from trainee to, to be, let's say, fit, you reach fit, or, mature, stage, that now you can, let's say, play a very positive role in this, situation.
Now, given the complexity of regional issues, how does Jordan manage the risk of becoming overstretched as regional instability persists in Syria, Iraq, and other countries?
Could you, I don't, I don't understand, exactly what did you mean by, overstretch, the Jordanian overstretch. Could
Um,
you
in,
could you
ter-
please?
in terms of essentially both military and intelligence and counterterrorism um, risk management, how does Jordan ensure that it's capable of addressing all of these issues? Because we're seeing the rise of instability all over the Middle East. We are seeing assorted issues inside Syria. We are seeing problems in Iraq. We are seeing pockets of instability and also conflicts in various parts of the region, from the Middle East proper to the Red Sea region to assorted other issues. And it's a lot in terms of managing risks and managing threats. It's a lot of issues to handle if you are located in the region and you have to live there on a day-to-day basis. I mean, US sends troops, US sends assets, but US is not in the Middle East. For it, it's merely an issue of operations and operational management. Jordan is right there. It's surrounded by these threats and risks.
Yeah, as I mentioned, earlier, if I, get your question,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
right, uh, is building, this it's all approach in dealing with the difficulties of the vital,
mm-hmm,
Middle East at the at the past and even in the present.
mm-hmm,
So we Jordan is try to concentrate in the what they call it, the doctrine of not interfering in others, other countries, Arab countries.
mm-hmm,
Uh, we uh, we 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 try, or not, try. We rely very much in the our coalition with the our partnership with the United States. That's
mm-hmm,
first of all, and then we have, this very good relation with the European Union. Jordan
mm-hmm,
have a good relation with all the European country. Even we have a warm relation between Jordan and even the Russia. We don't
mm-hmm,
have, let's say, an obstacle to connect with Russia.
mm-hmm,
We don't have even let's say, a closed door with the the Chinese. So
mm-hmm,
Jordan, okay, we rely a lot in the United States because United States is helping us, since the beginning of our relation, since the 2000. We the United States is helping us about in financial aid about to 20 billion dollars.
mm-hmm,
So we rely on that, but we doesn't let's say close the door with others, and the American know that because they,
mm-hmm,
what they call it, the agility to understand that sometimes you need to give the autonomy of your partner to play his card. So we
mm-hmm,
play all our card in Jordan. That's our that's our recipe. That's our how we think about it.
mm-hmm.
We are open. We play with others. In the same level. No, but we have a favorite thing. That's our partnership. Because he's which is the USA. USA is our partnership, number one partnership, because he share even in the water. This water we drink in Amman, USA is sharing in that. So we understand that. So, but the US, doesn't, let's say, say, okay, don't, talk with the Chinese, or
Mm-hmm.
oh no, no, you cannot, talk with the Russian. No, we can, we have, this freedom, autonomy, and
Mm-hmm.
that's, how we, try, to play it, yeah,
Well,
and a real politics.
and given the fact that these actors, they're not simply, having bilateral relations with Jordan, but they're all, have a role in the Middle East more broadly. And given that you have to deal with this multilateral cooperation and multilateral also dynamics, What lessons has Jordan drawn from the roles of these actors, from these dynamics, and from the recent regional conflicts? And how do these lessons shape its defense efforts and its defense strategy?
Okay, I think with every let's say every experience have its lessons,
Mm-hmm,
and and it's to measure how to measure to how extent it's help you
mm-hmm,
in your let's say preserving all this very harsh time, hostile time in the Middle East, because it's gains. You have some gains of it. Sometimes you need let's say you need let's say the Russian relationship, to let's say
mm-hmm,
to to have some access for another country like maybe India. You
mm-hmm,
need to be very close to the Chinese, because that there is let's say a very let's say cheap equipment that you can let's say buy it and sell it. You need your relation with the even with the Israelis, even
mm-hmm,
though the relation is not good now, but
mm-hmm,
with the times, I know that from my experience, and from that, even in the harsh time when there is uh, and over the table, that thing is not good, but under the table things that there is an open open channel that
mm-hmm,
you can use your like your enemy to let's say and we do it and sometime in the history, and we try to gain from our relation with the Israelis leaders to interfere with the Americans sometime,
mm-hmm,
and some period of time. Jordanian and King Hussein use his relationship with the Israelis leader, for instance, Rabin, and then to interfere with the the American administration to help Jordan.
hmm,
So that's how you use your all your card. You don't
mm-hmm,
let's say play with uh, zero game. You play it gain to gain. You gain
mm-hmm,
and I gain. So Jordan is relying a lot in this thing.
mm-hmm,
And I think that they play it in a very useful way so
mm-hmm.
far.
So, to that effect, would you say that the great power competition in the Middle East between US, Russia, and China has it been more of a challenge or more of an opportunity for Jordan?
For Jordan, it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, because you have all kind of a fruit here in one bags, so you can let's say so you can let's so you can sell everybody you sell in the same season. Yes, you have an apple, and you have orange and
Mm-hmm.
lemon in the same time, and you have tomato and potato in the same year. So I think no, we as a small country,
Mm-hmm.
as a very small country, and that's what we call, because we are a small country. Okay, we have a shortage of water, one of the
Mm-hmm.
poorest country in the world in the water. We don't have oil. We don't have but we have people who have a brain and they use their brain, huh? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and they rely a lot in learning and teaching
Mm-hmm.
each other, even the all all kind of people. So I think competition between the big power is benefiting, or it 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 reveals that in the past benefit Jordan, and will benefit it in the future, even now, so think about it when there's this the big power, fighting with each other, and we survive.
Mm-hmm.
uh, when there is the Cold War between the Russia, the USSR, and the Eastern Bloc in one hand, and you have the NATO and the United States, the European, and the other side. There is this, two giant, and you are a small, say a small, small one. You survive. So think about it now. There is one, big giant, and this giant is your friend.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel afraid of. I don't feel, I feel, like, for myself, I feel, like a fortune, for us.
Hmm. So,
Yeah.
so you did mention that there's been extensive U.S. support for the Jordanian modernization efforts in terms of military and intelligence and so forth. So, how does the U.S. military assistance influence Jordan's force structure, its training priorities, and procurement decisions, or is it a major factor in shaping those things?
Yeah. Look, like, since as I told you, since 2000, Jordan has received of over, uh, 20 billion in
Mm-hmm.
USA,
Mm-hmm.
with an annual, allocation of approximately 1.3 billion dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Of this, roughly, 16% support defense and security programs. Yet this support has not resulted in dependency. Instead,
Mm-hmm.
it has enabled Jordan to enhance its capabilities,
Mm-hmm.
uh, especially in areas such as border control, counterterrorism, and digital surveillance. So, yes, uh, I think, uh, this, this section of, or this side of the partnership
Mm-hmm.
is helpful for the Jordanian as a whole, and it make us, still, stand uh, till now, even though we suffer a lot, during the last, let's say 3 years, because of the COVID and the
Mm-hmm.
blockade and all of this thing. So uh, the the uh, the American aid is help us, a lot in doing a lot of things, and in pursuing our lives till now, and we depend on in this thing, to continue in the future, and not in, to stop that. I hope so.
I kind of want to follow up with the question that I, asked briefly at the Defense Security and Cooperation Conference, but here we have a bit more time, which is we are seeing a changing political landscape and priorities domestically in the United States. There is a more sort of isolationist streak. There are some factions who want to withdraw from the Middle East altogether or to refocus on China and the South China Sea and Asia Pacific, in the Pacific. To what extent, to what extent can that impact the cooperation in general and military aid specifically?
Yeah, that's a very, very critical and good, excellent question. Yes. Uh, Let me think. If we if we let's say go precisely to the last let's say national security doctrine of Trump administration. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and some folks and some scholars even and commentator here in Jordan and all over the world saying that okay, the American is diverging their interest to the west, let's say uh, Pacific Ocean, and they neglected the Middle East. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This is this is the propaganda say, now.
Mm-hmm.
I think you notice that even in the
Mm-hmm.
the American media,
Mm-hmm.
some people talk about it. But I think even though that they said that the Middle East as a whole, as a and let's say very, very important, let's say
Mm-hmm.
uh, side of the world is losing its, let's say, attraction for the American administration. I don't think it affect Jordan,
Mm-hmm.
because I think Jordan is something special for the American administration.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, other Democratic or Republican, I think that they have the same, let's say, the same way of look how they look for Jordan. That's what I believe, and that's what I see during the last, let's say, 3 or 4 decades, from the beginning of I began to interest in politics and in intelligence things. I don't that's kind of, let's say, differences in the in weight. Okay. But all of the American administration believe on that Jordan is a very solid, trusted partnership, and I don't remember that that there is, let's say, a lack of understanding or interruption of this kind of relation, uh, except in one occasion. To be
Mm-hmm.
very honest with you, except in
Mm-hmm.
one occasion, that's in and during the Iraqi war. When the
Mm-hmm.
Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1991,
Mm-hmm.
when the George W. Bush, and the Congress withhold, some fund for Jordan. Other than that, from Truman till now, till Trump,
Mm-hmm.
things go smooth, and we are very happy with the Americans,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that the American is very happy with us, and because we see, Ambassador Horstner in Amman is visiting, every week. He visited, the tribes, visited, the funeral,
Mm-hmm.
visited, the festival here in Jordan. So things is going, very well with us.
So
I
to
don't
that,
think that
mm-hmm.
I
Go
don't
ahead.
think that Jordan lose any let's say anything from the last, to go back to the what began with the national security, the doctrine, news national security, American national security doctrine for
Mm-hmm.
Trump.
On the other hand of this angle, we are seeing that there is also an increased competition in the Middle East itself among various countries. There are economic com competition factors, but there's also a new arms and tech race. We are seeing countries compete for the use of AI in advancing their weapons. We are seeing new centers of defense production facilities. Turkey is becoming very much a rising actor. Saudi Arabia is looking to advance its own interests to kind of build up an independent defense production industry. UAE is cooperating with China in various co-productions. Where does that leave Jordan in the middle of these efforts and competitions and different actors trying to essentially dominate the defense field?
Well, I think the Jordan try to to cope with this, let's say, this very fast accelerated, not fast, accelerated change
Mm-hmm,
which happened in the area of weapon and weaponize with the AI and all of this stuff,
mm-hmm,
drones and all of this stuff. We have in Jordan what do you call it, the caustic. Do you ever hear about the caustic, which is the King Abdullah Special Operation Training Center?
mm-hmm,
Yeah, they have uh, they cooperate with the Americans, and they try to Jordan try through this center, the caustic, try to cope with the, the the progress which happening in the field of weapons, and small weapons, not we don't manufacture tanks and
mm-hmm,
air fighter, but like drones, like some equipment for the security
mm-hmm,
border, all of this stuff. I think Jordan began to use its production of this thing, and as I told you, we we try to diverse some, make a combination of things, but it's from the United States and United European Union, and to be in the let's say in a way that protect our national security and protect our security of the border with the Syria, with Iraq, and even with the Israelis, even
mm-hmm.
though we have we have cooperate on this thing, on a daily basis. Yes.
At the same time, we are seeing that there are two major centers of political and military gravity that have been causing a lot of questions about how to manage their rise or their activity. On the one hand, there is Iran, which has targeted Jordan in the past with drones, and there are concerns for Jordan as a potential frontline state in any escalation, and we have seen that already. Jordan was one of the principal actors cooperating with in U.S. missile interception efforts. On the other hand, there is Turkey, which for the time being is focusing its energies in very specific directions: Syria, Iraq, the Red Sea region, Libya, and has fairly strong relations with the Trump administration. That may not always be the case. There may be a future administration that sees Turkey's military role in the region in a more critical light. Where does that leave Jordan between these two power mechanisms? With one is completely hostile, I would say, Iran. The other one has this waxing and waning relationship with the U.S. at various points in time, and has its own ambitions that are, also some may describe as hegemonic. How does what is Jordan's plan for balancing these issues, given that it's as you mentioned, it's relatively small. It's and these two countries are sort of becoming, one has already been a major security issue. The other one is a rising actor with a very assertive foreign policy.
Well, if I want to know to summarize it,
Mhm,
in one, let's say line, I think that you are dealing with one crazy actor, that you cannot expect how did they feel, and
mhm,
the other one is it's not rational, but it's have kind of rationality in doing things.
mhm,
So if I want to go for a side of them and to choose one of them, of course I will go for the Turkey. But knowing that we have a very let's see, if you go in
mhm,
nostalgia things, historical thing, that we
mhm,
have this bad
mhm,
bad bad history with the Turks, because we
mhm,
get rid of the Turk Ottoman empire in the past
mhm,
100 years. Jordan is built in the heritage of the Ottomani empire.
mhm,
Aga Hashemite ruler here in Jordan, they are the one who get rid of the Turks from
mhm,
the Middle East.
mhm,
Yes, but uh, uh, but now under the rule of the Erdogan, I think that he's a rational actor. Okay,
mhm,
and you can, let's say telling that by by observing let's say his behavior with the American administration, especially with
mhm,
the Trump administration.
mhm,
People they are talk, they have kind of, let's say, table, and they have, let's say, they're playing card, and they I need this and you need that, and we'll find a common, let's say, ground, and play
mhm,
an equation of not the zero game,
mhm,
but zero sum game. No, because you gain and I gain. But at the other side, when you deal with the Shiite, the Malali
mhm,
and Shiite, they are, you don't play with the rational, actor, but from my point of view, it's not rational. Uh, let's say player or actor, a state actor.
mhm,
So I don't want to say there is a balance. No, it's not a kind of balance, because if you want to say talk about
mhm,
balance, I'm going to put both sides in the same same weight. No, I prefer the Turks and how to deal with the Turks, and I will play with the Shiite in two open eyes and alert, all the time,
mhm,
because they don't, let's say, hesitate, to confront us, during the last, 3 years or 4 years. They make, our life very miserable in the border. They smuggle, narcotics, weapons.
mhm,
They try, to interfere in our, interior, let's say, life, through, through uh, trying, to play with the Islamic, let's say, movement, and the head of them is the Muslim Brotherhood, and those who believe in Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
They make life during the last two years in a very miserable way.
Mm-hmm.
Every week there is rally in the downtown, and they try to penetrate people. They would try to say that we are, let's say, defending the Palestinian and the
Mm-hmm.
people in Gaza, and you want to liberate Al-Aqsa and do all of this stuff. And people, unfortunately, Palestinians especially, they believe on that. They
Mm-hmm.
believe on this yarging, and they believe in this propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I will feel happy with the Turkey and Turkish policy, and I know that the Turkish policy can deal with it, because you have because you have a very strong and reliable partnership like the United States. I can, let's say, go to this side and deal with them, but I cannot, let's say, play it with the
Mm-hmm.
Iranian, with the Malali. I don't trust them.
So
We
here's
don't
the
trust them.
mm-hmm. So here's the question. As we mentioned before, there's concerns about U.S. security commitments because U.S. in the last 20 years has not always been reliable. There's been, the infamous example of the Iranian-led attack on Saudi Arabia during Trump's first term. There's been the Obama administration and its attempts to deal with Iran. The Biden administration has had a very mixed record. There are some commitments that I don't think US can withdraw from no matter who is the president because it would leave the US internal security at risk. But there are certainly ways for US to kind of limit its presence and its active role in many areas. To what extent are there regional solutions to that you see? Are there any new security blocks, such as the Arab NATO that Trump and others have tried to push at various points in time, that could emerge in order to consolidate regional security efforts in the absence of a of U.S. leadership role or a stable presence of any kind?
Unfortunately, I don't believe that
Mm-hmm.
there's any chance for this NATO,
Mm-hmm.
Arab NATO, So going to the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
uh, at, the, at at this time, we don't have any, let's say, any choice but to rely on the United States, and you need to deal with it, with all of this is the differences happening between the Republic administration or Democratic administration. I don't think that we have any choice, and especially for a country like Jordan. We
Mm-hmm.
are not Saudi Arabia or Egypt. We know what our capability and we know
Mm-hmm.
what our limits.
Mm-hmm.
So we are uh, we have this let's say we have this limitation and we cannot exceed it.
Finally, to end on a kind of positive note, do you see any potential specific reforms or adaptations that Jordan is considering to make its current defense partnership with the US more resilient to any political shift of the sort that we are seeing, to adapt to these political events? And in that light, what would a sustainable relationship like that look like to survive both regional instability and the combination of that with the political changes in the US.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's my last
Um,
question because I know I've taken a lot of your time, but I do think it's important to understand this long, forward-looking vision.
yeah, yeah. To be honest with you, I think it's one of the most important question, which is
Mhm,
uh, for myself, I'm working in that because I feel that
mhm,
from my side, I need, to build on in this issue, even, the
mhm,
small, things. And because of that, I participate in the last year in the Security Cooperation Conference in Washington, D.C.,
mhm,
and I participate this time
mhm,
because I'm trying, to to work. I'm not, let's say, saying that, it's me only, but I think that we can, let's say, work on these things to make it, like, okay, relationship, partnership with between United States and the Jordan is not, an issue of, administration, let's say, competition or diversity or, differences.
mhm,
Whenever it comes up, because there is this catalog. This catalog is how to deal with the Jordanian. Don't,
mhm,
play with it. That's how we deal with those people. Those people are, good or bad, or they are, let's say, uh, anything. Can describe it with anything. But this is our, catalog with them. This is how we deal with them. This is one. This is the alphabet. How to deal with. This is what I'm trying. We try, to do. And I think that during the last, let's say, 77 years, from the late King Hussein and King Abdullah II, is succeeding in building this kind of
mhm,
image,
mhm,
that Jordan, okay, Jordan is not a kind of things that, uh, if Biden is coming, or Trump is coming, will, play it or put it in the shelf, and then, the other administration will put it, again. It's not
mhm,
kind of play. It doesn't work like this. And
mhm,
I think during the last couple of months, I think it goes that way, because when I see and remember when, King Abdullah II, visit, Trump, he's the first Arabic president, or king, or Amir, who visited, Trump. And
mhm,
if you remember, when, Trump, sit with the King Abdullah and ask, for, the Ghazian refugee to go
mhm,
to uh, to Jordan, and King Abdullah, doesn't, let's say, provoke, Trump. We know that.
mhm, mhm,
And he said, okay, we'll take, the children, and, we'll, send them,
mhm,
to the hospital. And,
mhm,
King Abdullah is returning back to Jordan.
mhm,
King Abdullah is returning to Jordan. When he returned to Jordan, all the people, they, have, this, rally on the street, and, began, to cheering, King Abdullah.
mhm,
At the same time, this
mhm,
is this is very important thing. At the same time, in the same day, Trump, sent a letter for the king and for the Jordanian, people, saying, you have a good king or a good leader, and, all of this, good thing about it. So
mhm,
I think, it's a very good thing, to work in one picture, and this picture or this image doesn't, change with, changing the lenses of the administration.
mhm.
So I think it's not built 100%, but we try to make it that way. I
So
hope so.
it's so it's a matter of managing expectations and also to some extent managing personalities.
Yes. Yeah. Kind of. Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you so much about for this very insightful and important and timely discussion. I think a lot of people often underappreciate Jordan's role in security matters and in its partnership with the US simply because it doesn't, necessarily scream the loudest about what's going on and make the news every day. In my opinion, it's probably a good thing. Sometimes you don't want to
Yes.
be that country that's taking up the bulk of attention and sucking up the oxygen in the room. You want to be that quiet, reliable partner that you can go to for cooperation and not have to think about what they're going to do next.
Yes.
um,
Yes.
so
Yes.
uh,
Yeah.
so
I
I,
agree with you.
I really appreciate this discussion. I hope we continue having these conversations, and of course, I look forward to future conferences also with your participation. Hopefully, um,
Yes. Yes. I hope that we can, meet, maybe, next year when they, if they, have, this conference, because I know that they have, but, this year they make it, virtual one. So
yes,
I wish
that's
that we can meet sometime, yeah,
absolutely. And
in the
if you
future.
next time you're in the US, in New York or Washington, please do let me know. I would love to come up. I'm based in New York and I am a frequent visitor to Washington, D.C. So we don't have to wait for the conference if you are ever, visiting here.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, and please, don't hesitate, to reach my, my website and see,
Mhm,
if you have any things. We have, things in Arabic. Sometimes we have,
mhm.
things in English, and don't hesitate, to call any time, to ask about any things, and to cooperate in the future. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely, and I certainly look forward to that. And for everyone watching the program, this was a great conversation, and this is what the Washington Outsider tries to do, to bring perspectives that are diverse, informed, but also different from what you would normally hear in the Washington-centric policy arena that often, focuses on a few headlines and doesn't examine quite in depth the processes that make everything work smoothly most of the time. And I hope that you will see value in these conversations that are that go well beyond sound bites and well beyond these headline grabbing events and emergencies, because on a day-to-day basis this is much more important than occasional crisis, because this is what happens most of the time. This is what makes our relationships, our security, and our defense work as well as it does. For those watching this, we'll be back, of course, next week, same time, 9 p.m. Tuesday night. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great evening for everyone who was here today.